Definitely, like the one that I was jealous of was like transporting the VIPs because they would be like, "Oh, I would just talk to, Sergio Ramos." And I was like, "Okay, very casual. That's super cool." Or also a lot of the other volunteers were able to help with the practices that they had, and then they were like, "Yeah, we would just talk and technically you're not allowed to take pictures, but the players would be like, "Yeah, let's take a picture. It's fine." So, that was very unique for sure.
This is America's Cup, how the world's favorite sporting event will meet America's own vision for it. One of the things I'm trying to get across in this newsletter and podcast is how much goes into organizing a World Cup. And we've talked about host city committees and directors, but there's also a huge volunteer workforce behind the scenes that really helps put this thing together. I mean, they're kind of the lifeblood of putting these tournaments together. Just to give you some hard numbers, the Qatar 2022 World Cup had 20,000 volunteers on the ground. And the 2026 World Cup in North America, across the 16 host cities, will have 65,000 volunteers. Now, these volunteers are doing everything from media operations, so based at the media centers. They could be based at stadiums, airports, fan zones, showing fans to their seats, helping answer questions. They could be doing hospitality and catering. They could be host city ambassadors, helping cultural exchanges between residents and visitors. They could be people meeting teams and VIPs at the airport and whisking them away. They could be meeters and greeters. They could be people giving out accreditation badges and checking them. It's really work all over the board. There have been some rumblings online about whether such roles should be paid or some of these roles should be paid. I don't want to get into that today. I just want to kind of give a breakdown as to what the volunteer program is about, what the application process consists of. So just that Qatar World Cup number again, 20,000 volunteers, but there were 420,000 applicants. So they have to be whittled down quite a bit, which takes a lot of application review and interview selection processes. For the World Cup next year, the process is a really kind of long one. The application period has closed now, but all applicants submit an application online. The tryouts, quote unquote, take place from October to December, so they're happening right now. Offers will be made January to February next year. Training will happen March to May, and then they'll get their badges and uniforms in May and June. And by the way, we'll talk a little bit more about the uniforms because we're talking about a 10-piece Adidas kit, which sounds pretty nice, actually. One other nice thing is that anyone from anywhere in the world can apply. So Qatar's delegation was represented by 150 nationalities. Again, that remains to be seen how that all works out this time with immigration issues and visa wait times, etc. It's still open to all nationalities, but again, we'll see how that pans out. So today I'm talking to two people. I'm talking to Alison Grove, who is part of the Philadelphia Host City Committee, and she is the person who is in charge of the volunteer program, essentially putting the volunteer program together. So in our conversation, she broke down the process and what goes into it and what they're looking for. Our chat was actually a couple weeks ago in early October, but she updated me this week via email, and she said since October 16th, that's when tryouts started. They've done about 1,200 interviews. And again, that will keep going until the end of December. And then in the second half of the episode, my second guest is a volunteer, or a potential volunteer, I suppose. Her name's Diana Cruz, and she has applied to be a potential volunteer in Los Angeles. But she also did volunteer for the Club World Cup this summer. So I was able to get a little bit of a sense from her as to what she did and how that experience was. The Club World Cup was small potatoes compared to this. Again, they are recruiting 65,000 for the World Cup. The Club World Cup had 9,000. So about 7 times more volunteers this time, much more rigorous process. But Diana was very kind to lend her thoughts and motivations as to why she wanted to get involved. So first of all, here is my interview with Alison Grove from the Philadelphia Committee. Alison, so nice to meet you. I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about your role. Like, you have many titles: senior advisor, director of strategy, etc. Do you mind just telling me a little bit about that?
I was saying the joke around the office is my title's changed so many times. I probably hold the record. And there is a good explanation for that. Meg Kane, who is our host city executive, she and I actually started working on this project in November of 2019. And we were hired by the Convention and Visitors Bureau to help run the bid. And following that, David Cohen, who was our chair at the time, because we were doing a lot of fundraising, frankly, felt strongly that we broke off and created a 501c3, which is Philadelphia Soccer. So we began that in early 2020, then COVID, then the bid. So basically, I'm in year 6 of this project, and we're still a lean team, but we were very lean back then, wearing a lot of hats. And then as FIFA communicated more and more about the sorts of roles and deliverables we were going to need, we just each took on more hats, and then we'd hire other people and switch hats. So my title, yes, I think today it is Senior Director, Operations, Strategy, and Partnerships. Obviously, we're doing a lot of work with the folks running Philly 250 and Welcome America and Major League Baseball and all the different conventions and the PGA tournament. I mean, there's a lot going on in 2026, and the World Cup is one thing. It's probably the biggest thing, but it's one thing. And in order for it all to coordinate and flow well from a city perspective and avoid redundancy and duplications, I sit on about half a dozen committees, all focused on 2026.
What does the volunteer program entail?
Quite a bit. It makes sense that I'd be running the volunteer program, though I didn't exactly raise my hand. But now I'm thrilled with it. But I ran.
Are you sure?
Yes. I'm actually really excited. I ran the volunteer program for the RNC in 2000 and the Papal Visit in 2015 and the DNC in 2016. And I say that because I've never seen anything like this. So FIFA, like a lot of things, puts a lot of thought and organization and process around everything to do with the tournament. What I've come to realize is, I don't want to speak for FIFA, but if I had to guess, the volunteer program is such an important part of the tournament and their brand that they would probably rank it, tournament here, fan festival here, volunteer program there. I mean, they take it very seriously. So they work with every host city to recruit, screen, interview, train, and deploy volunteers, different numbers per city. And that was a collaborative process between us and FIFA, because they know what they need around tournament rules, and we know our city, so we know what we need in terms of transit hubs and the Rocky statue and the visitor center and hotel rooms and things like that. And we also know that Philadelphia has a very, very strong built-in volunteer system. SEPTA has 800 SEPTA ambassadors. The airport has over 100 airport ambassadors. I want to use those guys as subject matter experts. They know what they're doing. So we want them at the transit hubs and the airport, but we will train them on all things World Cup. And even though they'll be wearing SEPTA uniforms and airport uniforms, they'll have a lanyard and something that identifies them with World Cup. There's also, this is new, so you may not be that familiar with it, but there's a program that the Visitor Center and Visit Philadelphia has rolled out called Fambassadors. And these are enthusiastic people who want to volunteer for major events and other things in Philadelphia, and they go through pretty rigorous training. They go through a FAM camp and they have their own uniforms. So we will be using about 1,000 of those. And then the World Cup volunteers will be about somewhere between 3,200 and 3,500. So when I look at this and I envision June 11th through July 19th next year, I see Philadelphia really alive with this, a mosaic, if you will, of volunteers. So if someone's arriving at 30th Street Station, they're going to see volunteers in World Cup uniforms. They're going to see SEPTA volunteers with the World Cup lanyard. They're going to see Fambassadors in their Fambassador gear and a World Cup lanyard. We really want to let the world know that Philadelphia really steps up for Philadelphia. And applications are about to close. They've been up and running since August. Starting next week, we will open our volunteer center. That's also a very unusual piece of this program. We've taken pretty significant space at the Fashion District on East Market, and that was a very thoughtful decision. But it is very macked out for FIFA. FIFA has built it out, and that center will open next week. The first round of volunteers will be coming in next Thursday, the 16th. That's when screening and interviews begins. Then people are offered their roles. They accept the roles, the trainings start, and you've got everything from general training, Philadelphia training, cultural competency training to role specific training. And then uniforms and credentialing is a big undertaking because the uniforms are a 10-piece Adidas kit, including sneakers.
10?
10
Where are the 10? Are there like hats and scarves and gloves and...
hats and fanny packs and shorts and pants and a quarter zip and a varsity jacket and a t-shirt and
Wow.
socks, and yeah, it gets to 10. So it's pretty remarkable. You can't purchase it. By then the volunteers have gone through, the first thing people ask is, well, wouldn't people just do it for the uniform? They will have already been through a lot and put in a lot of time. So I'm sure there are some that will, but I think at that point in the journey, most of those volunteers are pretty invested. And then the final phase of the volunteer center is really to be the mothership and the hub for the volunteers. It's where they check in and check out for shifts. We will always have teams of on-call volunteers ready to go as things come up so we can deploy in real time. So it's going starting next Thursday, the 16th. It will be up and running through the end of the tournament.
So how are those allocated? Why has FIFA said that 3,000 should go to Philadelphia?
It's a good question in a lot of ways. So every applicant, anyone who has applied over the FIFA website and the FIFA app, everybody's coming in through the same portal. They're going through the same background check, same background screening. The application itself takes about 30 to 40 minutes. I mean, the real getting to know the volunteers and figuring out where past experience or professional experience will make the best fit starts with the application. So FIFA has a number in mind for what they need based on everything from the size of our stadium to the compactness of our city. I mean, if you were to look at Boston, most of the World Cup activities are taking place in Boston, but the tournament's out at Gillette. So you've got a lot more ground to cover. We're very compact. We have a great public transit system that goes right to the stadium. Other cities do not have that. So it's really about the number of volunteers you need in the right places to make sure that every fan and every visitor or every resident can ask a question, get directions, have those delivered in different languages. So we just need to make sure all the primary points are covered. Any of those volunteers could be assigned to a stadium position, which could be anything from participating in opening ceremonies to giving directions from the NRG station. They might be deployed at Fan Festival. They could be deployed along the route of East Market, because we know people are going to go see the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, City Hall, Dilworth, Love Park, Rocky, and then our Fan Festival, which is Lemon Hill. Some hotel rooms, as I mentioned, obviously key transit hubs. So we're really making the decision on the number together. Also, like I've never seen before, FIFA and the World Cup is its own thing. And you have people who it is their life's passion. Every 4 years, their family takes a trip and goes to the World Cup. But it's also meant to be this great opportunity for Philadelphia and its residents and citizens to participate in the World Cup. So we're feeling great about our application numbers. We've got a lot of people applying, but close to 50% of them are from outside of the country. They're traveling to Philadelphia and they've chosen Philadelphia. We're right now the number 3 most chosen city after New York and Miami.
And for those from abroad, will they have to be present for some kind of training as well? I know you have tryouts coming out as well.
Yes. So a lot of these volunteers are known to FIFA because they're repeat volunteers. They still have to go through all the screenings and all of that. So there will be virtual options.
So the tryouts are basically just interviews, right? They're not... Tryouts makes it sound like it's like American Idol or something.
Yeah, right. You spend 5 minutes in the goalie net. No, it is basically a live in-person screening to assess where your skill set, your personality may be best suited.
Got it. You mentioned some of the positions. Are there any kind of more unusual or fun or quirky ones that we might not even think are volunteer positions?
Yes, because the volunteers really do become part of the personality of the tournament. You may have seen in the last World Cup in Qatar, they had some volunteers, like up in lifeguard chairs and doing the spinning signs. I mean, they really try to make it, the volunteers are almost part of the decor and vibe of the tournament. So if there's a volunteer who has experience in doing those crazy signs when, a furniture place or a car dealership is having big sales, that's going to pop out because, wow, we can put that person in a really fun role. We don't expect the volunteers to be quiet and be standing in the background. Let's put it that way. We want them to have an experience, but we also want them to be a part of the fan experience as well.
I read somewhere that some volunteers might be located at airports. What would they be doing there?
I mean, the airport will have its professionals there, but greeting, welcoming to Philadelphia, I mean, from the second you step foot in Philadelphia, we want you to feel welcome. We want you to feel safe. We want you to know where you're going. So there'll be direction providers, welcomers. We will definitely have volunteers down in the baggage claim areas because that can get very hectic. And then also helping people figure out Ubers, where the Uber stations are and taxis, but also that you can take public transit from the airport. There's a lot of ways to get from the airport to Philadelphia and other points. So we want to make sure that that's covered.
Is this a way for some people who maybe can't afford tickets to catch some of the action?
To a certain degree, but small percentage. The stadiums are going to be packed. There will be volunteer roles that are working at the stadium during matches, but your volunteer job comes first. If a goal is scored and everybody's cheering, maybe you're lucky enough to catch that, but you might be dealing with something. So I should mention this, separate from volunteers. Philadelphia is expecting around 500,000, maybe 600,000 visitors to come to Philly for the World Cup. 70% will not have tickets. So where do they go and why are they coming? The FIFA Fan Festival, which is at Lemon Hill, is really the next best place. And some might argue it's a better place to experience the matches because you've got multiple screens, you can see it, you're with other fans. There's a lot of activities that are very similar to what goes on in the stadium in terms of fandom. And our fan festival will hold 25,000 people. So you're there with a lot of fans and it's a pretty cool experience. So our volunteers will be working there, but they can also go. And then we will have our recognition and thank you event for the volunteers at Fan Festival as well.
Is the way that this is being set up this year any different from past World Cups, or is it pretty standard FIFA fare?
I would say both. I think, FIFA has worked very hard to build an operation that works really well, and they clearly have a brand that is recognizable. And they have a standard of excellence that they do not bend on. Having said that, they're working in 17 different cities across 3 countries. And just in the US alone, you've got 11 different cities that might as well be 11 different countries. Philadelphia is very different from Kansas City and different from Dallas, different from New York. You're going to see that FIFA standard and that FIFA brand and that FIFA execution, but you're going to see the spirit, the vibe of each city, and frankly, the way that each city does things and how certain things work better in some cities than others or work differently, and it could be everything from where your fan festival site is to where your volunteer center is to your public transit. There will probably be a lot of media going to multiple cities. I think they'll have different experiences, but with the constant of FIFA throughout.
And on July 4th, 250th birthday for America, will there be heightened need for more volunteers?
Yes. And we're working very closely with Welcome America, and because they have a huge volunteer corps, and Philly 250, Pennsylvania 250, America 250 on all of those events. And so, yes, that's why we've really all been working together for over 3 years now to make sure there's coordination, coverage, and we're all working together and we're not duplicating efforts. In fact, the head of Welcome America is also overseeing our fan festival. So working closely on what time should the 4th of July parade be versus what time the match is, when are the fireworks, when's the concert, when, what's going on at fan festival. So yeah, I mean, July 4th, I would say, and I'm biased, the place to be is Philadelphia because no other host city has what we have going on that weekend.
For the 3,000 positions, how many people would have applied?
Well, we felt to deploy and have 3,000 volunteers make it through the entire process, we would need a minimum of 8,000 applications. I mean, we're over 20,000.
Wow. So yeah, a lot of tough cuts to be made.
Yes.
In that case, will you focus on Philly-based people maybe rather than people coming from afar?
Yes, we will actually limit the percentage of volunteers that come from either, other cities in the US or outside the country because first, and that there's a balance there too, because FIFA certainly wants to keep that repeating volunteer program going. And Philadelphia would love people to come from other cities and other countries and spend time here and get to know our city. So there's a real advantage to that. At the same time, this is meant to be an inclusive and accessible opportunity and experience for our residents.
Once again, that was Alison Grove. My thanks to her for taking the time. And right on to the second interview. Again, this is Diana Cruz in Los Angeles, a soccer fan who participated at the Club World Cup as a volunteer and wants to get involved again in the World Cup and is currently in the application process. So Diana, just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you live and what you do.
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles at the moment. I live by myself. I'm a therapist in my regular day-to-day.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with soccer.
I definitely love soccer. I grew up playing it. So I started when I was 5 and I still play to this day. And I try to go to as many soccer games as I can.
Who do you support in the World Cup?
Colombia, for sure. I was born there, but definitely my second is USA.
So you applied to the FIFA volunteer program, right? Why is that something you wanted to do?
I did, yeah. I applied just because I did previously do the Club World Cup when it was at the Rose Bowl. And it was an experience that I didn't think that I would enjoy, especially given like there's so many different aspects to the World Cup. But I think just meeting new people, and it definitely gives you, again, like different perspectives and different roles that like goes into a World Cup. And the people there are amazing. They're super nice, for sure.
What made you apply for the Club World Cup? Because you said you weren't sure whether it would be a fun experience or not.
I think it's just because I had time on my hands, for sure, that I was like, well, if I get it, cool, and if I don't, cool as well. But I think just seeing like maybe more the back end of what it takes to run a tournament, because it's such a big tournament, you don't really see like how people get badges, for example, or like how you help the team practice and stuff like that.
The Rose Bowl is pretty iconic too.
Definitely, yeah.
So what was your role at the Club World Cup?
Yeah, I was actually in charge of printing out like the badges that you would have. So, clearing people in terms of what rank they were at. So you would just have the ID, just verify, and then print out all that stuff and give them a cool little lanyard.
So these are badges for who?
Just for anyone, like coaches, players, police officers, just anyone that you think needs to be in the stadium. That's who needs to get a credential, basically.
Got it. So did you get to meet a lot of players and coaches that you knew?
I met more coaches. They would send coaches to get the players' credentials, but I met someone that was in charge of marketing for the Monterrey team, so she was super cool. Met a lot of journalists and stuff like that, so all over the world too. It wasn't just in America, it was like people from Spain, people from Australia, New Zealand, you name it.
And did you get to see any of the soccer action?
I did. Thankfully, I got to go to a few matches, and it was super fun. Definitely hanging out with volunteers as well, and then, getting a sneak peek in our lunchroom as well, kind of watching on the TV while we were on break.
Okay, nice. Was that a role that you applied for specifically? Is it one that you wanted in particular?
It wasn't one that I wanted. You always want to be in the stadium. So I remember, I think, applying for like something for the opening ceremonies, or like trying to be in the press room, or at least doing something interacting with the players. So definitely not something on the top of my list, but I don't regret getting it because, like I said, it's more of the behind the scenes. I was outside of the stadium, so it's much different.
And this time around, what's the application process like?
It's actually super easy. I'm trying to remember as well because I did it a while ago, but it was just like putting your availability and I think verifying in terms of your ID and stuff like that, and then also putting a priority of what positions you want to be in, where you're applying to, because you could do various, like if I'm in LA, I could still do Seattle, for example.
But you're applying to do it in LA, right?
I am, yeah.
And it's going to be a different stadium, right? It's the SoFi Stadium?
Yes.
Do you put a priority role that you really want to do? Do you get to choose?
You do get to choose. You get to choose like your top 3. I probably put the same, like opening ceremonies, something in the press room, and then also probably something to do with the transporting VIPs and stuff like that.
And have you heard back yet?
No, not yet. I think they'll take a little bit of time. I think the application process just finished, so I think they're going to review all the thousands that they got and then get back to us.
And then I see there's something called tryouts, which sounds kind of intimidating. Did you have that last time?
I did, and honestly, I was also intimidated because I was like, "Oh, am I gonna have to put on a performance, or like, what do I have to do? Is it one-on-one? Is it group interviews? I don't even know what it was." But honestly, it was nothing like that. It was just you're in a room, and then they talk to you about like basically you got the role. So it's more like, "Oh, this is what you're gonna do. This is what the uniforms look like. X, Y, Z."
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Did you have a training last time as well?
I did, yeah. We would do like online training, so like kind of modules that you do by yourself, but then also you would do like in-person trainings like right before your shift, but it wasn't anything that like you would get really hung up on or like you would not get immediately. And the supervisors there were like super helpful. So if you forgot a step or you didn't do something, then they would always be hands-on to help you on shift anyway.
Yeah. Did it ever get pretty intense? Was it hard work?
Some days, yeah, because then at least for me, for the credentials, like sometimes people would come in like big groups, so it would be like 10 people waiting, and then you don't want everyone waiting, so we try to pump them out pretty fast. Or it would just be like, there's a hiccup, and then I would have to ask the lead supervisor and just make sure. But it was never like stressful. It was more like, I want to make sure that we're doing this right. Let me go ask someone.
Would you have to get leave from work, for example, so that you're free for those few weeks?
Yeah, but it was good because there was a lot of anticipation. So like let's say today and then I would know next month like what my shift would be and then I get to pick as well. And then the cap is 8 shifts. That's kind of like the max, but you also don't have to do all 8 shifts. Like you could do 4, 6 or whatever. And then you can also pick up shifts, you can drop shifts, things happen so they understand as long as you're communicative about it.
Okay, got it. So it's pretty flexible.
Very.
What did you like most about it?
There's so many aspects. I mean, it's like you said, since Rose Bowl is so iconic and not having to, I guess, pay to get in, it's super cool because you get to see, like I said, the lounge that you get to have lunch in. Also meeting like the supervisors, like the people that actually work with FIFA. They treat you like an actual, I guess, equal because when you're a volunteer it kind of feels like, well, you're just there to do everything that they don't want to do, but it's more like it felt like a partnership. And like I said, I love soccer, so it's seeing it from another perspective and behind the scenes for sure was definitely something for the books.
You get to meet a lot of people and meet friends and that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, people that I'm still connected with. And also, the great thing is, we had a WhatsApp group, so I still have a lot of people in contact. And we have pictures together and check in every now and then. And I'm sure by the time the World Cup comes by, we'll see if we'll have shifts together.
Yeah, and were they from all over the world?
They were, yeah. More often than not, more like America. I met someone that was actually a referee. She would ref like, NWSL, MLS, even some international matches. So that was super cool to connect with her, or someone that was coming from like the East Coast all the way to LA. So yeah, definitely very diverse group.
Does it seem like a lot of them are trying to do it again?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because they do say like if you do the Club World Cup, then you're more likely to be picked for the World Cup. So that's kind of a lot of people's motive, which to be fair was mine too, but it's also cool to be able to do a different tournament that's not as intense and then to see maybe what would the World Cup look like.
Yeah, does this feel like a whole other ball game? Does this feel like it's going to be much bigger than the Club World Cup?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think when I was applying for the Club World Cup, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. 1 in a million shot. And now it feels much more intense. Even though I have that experience from the Club World Cup, I'm still like, I need to be okay with not being picked. But it definitely feels much more intense and intimidating.
Do you meet anyone who had some pretty unique roles that maybe you wouldn't even know existed?
I'm trying to think, but definitely like the one that I was jealous of was like transporting the VIPs because they would be like, oh, I would just talk to, Sergio Ramos. And I was like, okay, very casual. That's super cool. Or also, a lot of the other volunteers were able to help with the practices that they had. So I think they were at UCI and then they were like, yeah, we would just talk. And technically, you're not allowed to take pictures, but the players would be like, yeah, let's take a picture. It's fine. So that was very unique for sure.
Yeah, nice. I spoke to one of the organizers and they said that they're giving out like a 10-piece Adidas kit to volunteers this time. That sounds like a highlight, honestly. Did you get anything like that last time?
I did, yeah. I don't remember like how many pieces I got, but I for sure got a lot. I mean, I still use like the shoes that they gave me, and there's like a really cool crossbody, so they for sure deck you out in outfit.
Are there any tips that you would give newbies this time?
That's a good question. I think it's more just be really receptive to what people are telling you, and then also just be able to collaborate, because a lot of the time everyone's kind of doing something that they've never done before, but also just relying on someone and just asking questions, and I guess not really being too pushy, because I feel like we are volunteers and we're dedicating our time, but then a lot of the people like to take advantage and they're like, oh, well, can we do this, or can we take pictures and da da da. It's just like being respectful also of like what your role is, but also have fun. Like, this is supposed to be a fun environment and getting to know people. Like, definitely if I could do it again, I would just have much more conversations, because I think I was a bit worried of, crossing a boundary or something like that, but definitely just being social.
Well, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime thing, right? So make the most of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And how far do you think Colombia's going to go?
Well, I hope they're going to win it all, but to be realistic, I'm hoping quarterfinals.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm from England, so I'm perpetually disappointed.
Well, at least you have the women's side that's doing pretty well.
That was Diana Cruz. My thanks again to Diana and to Alison Grove as well. I'm sure we'll be coming back to the volunteer experience in the next few months as it ramps up and offers are made, but that was an overview of the process. That's about it for today. Thanks so much for joining again. My newsletter, talibvisram.substack.com/subscribe. Please do subscribe and leave a rating or review of this podcast. You can do that on Substack, or you can do it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.